Hello and welcome to my channel. Today I'll be sewing a reusable cloth pad with a hidden layer of PUL. So first I'm just going to trace my pattern onto my top layer, which is cotton. And then of course cutting it all down to size, making sure I leave plenty of room around my pattern. And then a quick iron to iron out all the creases of my fabric. And then it's time to trace and cut out the core. For this pad I am using Zorb 3D Heavy Duty, which is very absorbent and absorbs a lot of fluid. And again, just cutting it out. For core, I cut out on the line, don't need to leave any extra room around it. And then when both pieces are cut out, I am just making sure that the core sits nicely in the middle of my topper fabric and securing it down with a few pins. And then it's time to attach the core to the topper fabric. I personally like using a wavy stitch, but you can use a straight stitch or whatever kind of stitch you like, as long as you catch the topper and the core and make sure that they're nicely attached to each other. And then to make the topper look neat, I am just pulling all the threads to the inside. When all the threads are on the inside, I'm just going to tie them all together, make sure that there's no loose threads, and then just cutting off the excess. So this is PUL. One side is shiny and the other side is fabric. PUL is an excellent waterproof material to add to your pads, as it is still breathable. And now I'm just cutting the PUL fabric to the size of my topper fabric. And then it is time to cut out the backer. For backer, I am using anti-pill fleece. And again, cutting the fleece down to the size of my topper. And just a quick note, these two fabrics are facing each other, so right sides facing. And now it's time to add the PUL. The shiny side will be down, so the fabric side will be facing my fleece. And now I have clipped all my 3 layers together with clips. You can use pins, but I recommend clips. For sewing, I'm using a ballpoint needle because it goes through the PUL layer much easier and it just is easier to sew. And I do find that you don't need to use a walking foot or any other specific feet to sew this. Just make sure when you're sewing to catch all 3 layers. And as you can see, the backer is just fine. Once you've done that, it's time to clip the threads. And cut around the pattern with pinking shears. Again, you can use regular scissors for this one. You don't need to have pinking shears, but I do find that when I cut with pinking shears, it helps the fraying. It looks neater and it's easier to turn. And when you're cutting, please make sure you don't cut into the threads, because then your pad will unravel. Also, for easier turning, I am clipping the inner corners, again making sure that I don't cut any threads. And then the outer corners. Now for turning, you see that there's 3 layers now compared to their usual 2, and you just go in between the cotton or the topper fabric and the fleece as per usual. This way the PUL liner layer will go directly against the core. It takes a bit of wiggling, but once you have the bulk inside, it's easier to turn. And for corners, I am using again my wooden knitting needle, which is not that sharp, but I still need to take care not to poke too hard, otherwise I will rape the fabric. And for the flap, you just turn the PUL and the fleece in, and then the cotton in. But you can see that it all wants to lie down as it should be anyway. And for that crispy look, I always iron my pads. It is easier to top stitch if it's all nice and flat, especially the turning flap. Just making sure everything is nice and flat. And then it's time to top stitch. I usually top stitch quite close to the edge. That's just my preference, how I like it and how I like when it looks done, but it's up to you. Once it's top stitched, it's time to cut the threads. And for the very last step, you need to attach the snaps. If, however, you don't have a snap press and snaps, you can also use Velcro. And then your pad's finished, all done. Anyway, thanks so much for watching, and I hope to see you again very, very soon. Bye bye.